Ms. Kartopoulos, you testified that no supervised parenting time has taken place in 2024 because you believe that Kaspars believes he's going to get unsupervised parenting time. Was that your testimony?
As to why he has not scheduled any further visits?
Correct.
That's my guess, yeah. I don't know 100% why he hasn't.
Why didn't you mention the fact that you owe Jody Check money that you haven't paid her, and that's why she won't schedule any visits?
I owe Jody Check money?
Yeah, yes, she's certainly reached out to you and asked to be paid
No, she has not, and I don't know what I would owe her money for. Casper was the one who pays for the visits.
Okay, so you're saying that she hasn't reached out to you to be paid?
I'm 100% saying that. I haven't heard from Jody since December, and I don't know how I could possibly owe her money.
Okay, and what was it about, why did Jody choose to refuse to provide supervision for your family back in December? What was the reason she gave you?
I don't know. I sent her an email where I basically held her feet to the fire about not outlining it or not mentioning in her visit outline that the PPO was not honored. And right after that, she quit. She didn't say anything to me, but she reached out to Kyle. And from what I understand, she reached out to you as well. But that December visit did happen. She came back on and was our supervisor for the December visit.
Yes,
I haven't heard from her since.
She came back on after I stated in court during a hearing that you had sabotaged the supervision, and then your attorney reached out to her and she agreed to do more supervision.
No, we had actually reached out to her before that.
Okay,
I didn't sabotage anything. I just asked her why she didn't outline, why she didn't mention it.
Slow down. I want to ask you the question, and I'd like you to respond to my questions, please.
Certainly.
Jody quit because you were putting ridiculous conditions on the supervision. Maybe ridiculous is my word, but you were demanding conditions on the supervision that she felt she couldn't comply with, and that's why she quit back in December. Isn't that correct?
No, it is not correct. She mentions in her guidelines that if there is a PPO that needs to be respected, that she will do that.
And she was doing that, wasn't she?
And that she will stagger visits. And she also, there's an upcharge for when a family has a PPO that needs to be respected.
Ms. Kartopoulos, please listen to my question. She complied with the PPO, didn't she?
Did Jody comply with the PPO?
Yes. She structured the supervision to comply with the PPO, didn't she?
Not every single time, no. And that's why I asked her. And I think it was, I don't think it's really up to her to comply with the PPO. I think it's up to your client. She's not restrained.
But she structured the visits in such a way that you would be complying with the PPO. There was no violation that ever occurred during the initial visits, is there? Or was there?
In the first visit?
Correct.
No.
But you were insisting on conditions such as you didn't want to physically see Kaspars at all during the exchanges because that was upsetting you. Isn't that correct?
No, it isn't correct. What my concern with her, and it is in the email that Kyle put into evidence, is that she did not even mention that the PPO was not honored. That is what I said. I wasn't putting conditions on her. I was just asking her why she did not mention that the PPO wasn't honored, because she did mention that Annika was late to the appointment. No, she didn't mention she was late to the appointment. What she said is that we went to the wrong hotel, which I did at first. And then learning that she was at a different hotel, I got Annika to the appointment on time, still in a timely fashion. So I did ask her, why would she mention something so insignificant as that I went to the wrong hotel, but not mention that Mr. Kartopoulos did not respect the PPO? It wasn't Jody who didn't respect the PPO, it was Mr. Kartopoulos. And I just asked why it wasn't mentioned.
How did he disrespect the PPO?
Because he was standing there when I came to get her.
Standing there, what does that mean?
It was violated. I said he didn't respect the PPO.
Okay.
And she specifically states in her guidelines that when there's a PPO, she will stagger, drop off, and pick up. And on that particular visit, it wasn't respected. And I brought that to her attention and asked why it wasn't in her notes. That is what happened. I wasn't trying to put extra conditions upon anybody.
Okay, let's move ahead. So your position is that Kaspars should never have unsupervised contact. Is that correct?
My position is that the supervision provision should not be lifted unless he seriously works on his issues that Judge Gottlieb outlined in her opinion from December of 2020.
But he's complied according to the therapists that were assigned to the case. Isn't that correct?
I have not heard any specifics about any work that
Ms. Kartopoulos, you saw my motion, correct?
Which one?
The initial motion that began this to adopt the initial recommendations. You saw the documents from the therapists, correct?
Where she says she will not speak of his behaviors of the past. Yes, I did see that.
His individual counselor, her opinion was he had meaningfully engaged. And the reunification counselor, her opinion was also that they had successfully completed the reunification process. So you've seen plenty of evidence. Isn't that correct?
I have not seen any evidence where Ms. Thompson refers to him successfully completing or admitting to behaviors of the past and meaningfully engaged in addressing those issues. Ms. Thompson that was not of concern to her. She was hired to reunify, and that's her only concern.
Okay, and you also saw, attached to my original motion, you also saw a statement from Kaspar's individual therapist as well, correct?
Yes, sure.
And she said he was engaged, correct?
She said he was engaged. She would not speak to behaviors of his past. And she also said in her first phone call with Tracy that he denies the allegations against him, which is not something that we had seen from her until we got to the reunification phase. She did not write that in any of her letters. She did not write that in any communications with myself, with my attorney,
So basically, there's nothing Kaspar's can do that you would consider meaningful engagement, is there?
That's not true. And I've said the same thing, and it's not like I keep coming up with new things.
Well, actually it is, isn't it? Because what the process has been.
She needs to answer the question that's posed to her rather than him interrupting her every time she's getting to the.
She's not answering the question.
I was going to say that would be nice for her to answer the question that he's posed because she goes off on different tangents. So, Mr. Carpenter, though, let her answer, and then you may bring up the next question.
Fair enough. I'd like to withdraw that question because I'd like to. Ms. Kartopoulos, at the previous hearings, Kaspar's counselor had said he was meaningfully engaged, and you subpoenaed the therapy notes and argued that the therapist was wrong and that he, in fact, hadn't meaningfully engaged. Isn't that the position you took at the prior hearings?
I need some clarification. Prior hearings meaning motion hearings, and I don't think I could subpoena any records from a Wyoming counselor because I have no jurisdiction. I don't think I ever issued a subpoena to her.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Procedurally, but you were provided with the therapy notes, and you took the position that because Kaspar's hadn't attended, in your opinion, enough sessions that he hadn't meaningfully engaged despite what his therapist said. Isn't that the position you took?
My position all along is if he's not taking responsibility for the behaviors that led him to lose his parenting time, if he's not taking responsibility for those, how is he working on those issues? Where is the reform in his denial?
Okay, and how is and if his therapist says he is taking responsibility, but you don't agree with her, whose opinion do you think the court should put more stock in?
His therapist has never said anything on the record or anything to me or anything to my attorney or anything to Annika's therapist or really anything to Ms. Thompson to outline what has he really worked on.
Wait a second.
Specifics.
I thought your position was he hasn't meaningfully engaged because he hasn't admitted what you've accused him of. Isn't that what you said all along?
I'm not looking just for him to admit something. I believe that he needs to, as the judge ordered, take responsibility. And as she also said, he needs to have open and honest communication with his counselor.
How do you define taking responsibility?
Pardon me?
How do you define taking responsibility?
For him to say, yes, I do have a problem with power and control issues, with perpetrating domestic violence. For him to say that to his counselor, and then from there they work on it. I don't see how him just say, I never did it, she's lying. I don't understand how that's any kind of engagement.
Okay, and your subjective belief that that is what he has told his counselor is the reason that you are opposing any sort of unsupervised parenting time. Is that correct?
I have seen absolutely zero evidence. The counselor doesn't, even though there are waivers signed for everybody, she does not respond to any communication from me when I ask specifics. She has given no specifics about what behavioral changes have been made. She just says, yeah, he's taken responsibility for the gap. And like Casper said on the record, he's taken responsibility for the fact that he was out of Annika's life for 6 years. And that's it. That's what he said. There's nothing else that needs to be worked on. Even though Judge Gottlieb said there were. I just can't, I can't reconcile. Maybe others can, but I can't reconcile the reform and denial. I just can't.
So you say that you've been supportive of a relationship between Kaspars and AK, and that you've not done anything to disparage her father to AK. Is that your testimony? So you don't think that putting putting AK's father's picture up at in the office at the school that disparaged her in any way?
I didn't put his picture up in the office at the school. I gave it to the principal, and they actually had it in a discreet place. There was the first secretary, and then the second secretary who had like a cubby, and that's where she put it. And Annika happened to be in the principal's office one day. I'm not responsible for what they did at the school.
No, I know you're not. I'm just kind of curious to know how your daughter, who hadn't seen her father in years, would recognize a photo of her father wearing a wig at a quick glance.
At a quick glance, is that what it was?
That was the testimony, that she had glanced
Your
up
Honor, I'm
and
going
saw
to
this
object to
picture,
the
right?
characterization of the testimony. We can't hear you.
Sorry, no wonder you guys weren't reacting to my stopping everything. They put these darn key fobs right where your arms are, and so far I've put the file on it twice while I've been moving exhibits around, and I've leaned on it once or twice, so I guess I must be muting myself. But in any event, that was not the testimony. The testimony was that the picture that was at the school was a picture of Kaspars himself, not the one with the wig. That's what the testimony was. So, Mr. Carpenter, you may question on that issue, but you were wrong on mischaracterizing the testimony as to which picture was used.
Okay, I apologize for that.
No, that's okay. I mean, we've mentioned so many things in these hearings, and most of them being from almost 10 years ago, but please proceed.
So you also testified that you took your daughter physically to and from class for 3 years. What reason did you tell her? What reason did you give? So she had no idea why her mother was walking her to and from class.
She probably had an idea it was for safety. I mean, this guy made these threats to her. That's not something that's made up. I didn't tell her, oh, I'm going to walk you to class every day because your dad's not safe and he made threats. That's not what happened. I would think that probably any of the gentlemen in this room would take some safety measures like that. If someone who was wholly out of control at the time had told their child that they were going to kill their mother and take the child to Latvia. These were serious concerns. This is something he threatened to do for years. And then he told her he was going to do it. That was scary. That was terrifying.
And you've continued to discuss this with her for how many years?
I didn't discuss this with her, Mr. Carpenter. Well, I don't know where you're getting this from.
Well, I'm getting it from
at that time. I don't know where you're getting this information from. I was not discussing this with my child. That child has been shielded from so much of what that person has done to us. She does not even know the half of it. If she
Fair
did,
enough. Your testimony was you were very offended by my motion for electronic communication that was filed in December. Is that a fair characterization of your testimony? That you thought it was a personal attack on you?
No, I didn't. I mean, I don't know that it was a personal attack on me. That's what it felt like to someone who is a survivor of domestic violence. When you receive something like that, where he's completely lying about me.
Well, let's dig into this a little bit. So your testimony is that we were asking for open communication using electronic means, and then ultimately there was an order entered allowing AK to communicate with her father. But the only method she has used to communicate with her father is coincidentally the method that you suggested in response to that motion, which was Our Family Wizard. Is that correct?
I didn't suggest it when Kyle came out of the settlement conference.
Isn't that correct? Please answer my question. Has she communicated with her father in any way other than through Our Family Wizard?
Annika has chosen to only communicate with her father through Our Family Wizard.
Yes. Your daughter texts, correct?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, she texts.
She uses Facebook Messenger, Instagram, all these messaging platforms.
She does not have any social media other than Snapchat. She does not have Facebook. She does not have Instagram.
And she doesn't communicate with any of her friends or anybody else through Our Family Wizard, correct?
Through our family wizard?
She doesn't communicate with anyone else but her father through our family wizard. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And so your position to this court is that your teenage daughter chose to communicate with her father of her own volition only through this one obscure platform that she would never use to communicate with anyone else. That's what you want this court to believe?
That's not what I want this court to believe.
Okay, why hasn't she texted her father?
I don't know. She won't answer me on that. Why didn't she do the dishes last night? I don't know. Why doesn't she do half the things I suggest or ask her to do? What I had said on testimony today was I set up per what Kyle told me after the conference. He said that referee Kmetz kept referring to OFW. And so I put OFW on her phone and she messaged her dad and let him know she had it. It was about 2 weeks had gone by and she wasn't messaging him. And that's when I emailed her his contact info. I was like, okay, since she's not using this, let's expand it. There was no order again at this time. I was just doing what my attorney told me to do. I sent her his email. I sent her his phone and she hasn't used that to date. And I have suggested that she does because I know she can't send them pictures through OFW. So I've suggested, why don't you text your dad a picture? Why don't you FaceTime him? I suggested on both of the holidays, as I stated earlier. Why don't you FaceTime him on the holiday? And she doesn't.
And you read and monitor all of the communications through our family wizard, correct?
Pardon me?
You read all of the messages exchanged between, well, you testified to what those messages were?
I have, yeah. I haven't been on there in about a month. I haven't looked at what's going on in her account. So no, I haven't read all of them. And it's not like there's a ton of messages to go through.
Simply put, you don't want Annika talking to her father. Is that correct?
That's not correct.
Well, didn't you testify that you were opposed? Didn't you testify that you were opposed to Annika having unsupervised phone calls with her father?
I did not testify to that.
Okay, so would you be okay with unsupervised phone calls? Should Kaspars be able to call Annika?
I have suggested that to her. If she wants to open up the lines of communication through her phone, at this point, it hasn't been ordered that, you know, her dad can call her. If she wants to do that, she can. And she has made the choice not to do it. And I asked her about it recently. I said, why haven't you done that? And her response was pretty typical. She said, well, then I have to go back through all my messages and get his information and put it in my phone. I said, Annika, I sent it to you. Do you want me to just give it to you again? So I don't know if she was necessarily getting to the truth of why she hasn't called him, FaceTimed him, or texted him. I don't know. But they are communicating. Like, and I asked her, so have you been in touch with your dad this week? Oh, and just on Sunday, she was like, oh, shoot, I forgot. I got to get back and message him. So I am encouraging that.
Now, you knew that we were going to be asking for some parenting time between Kaspars and AK over spring break this year at one of our previous hearings. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, I know that was one of Casper's wishes.
And in order to frustrate that, you've allowed Annie to make plans to travel with a friend this spring break so that if the court were to order spring break, Annie would have to perhaps be disappointed or upset because she'd have to break those or cancel those plans, correct?
No.
So you testified only a few minutes ago, Annie's going to be flying with a friend for spring break, didn't you?
Yes, she will be.
Why would you allow her to make those plans when you knew that we were trying to schedule parenting time over spring break?
There is no parenting time over spring break ordered.
But you knew that was one of the things we were pursuing, didn't you?
Spring break is in 2 weeks.
Ms. Kartopoulos, you knew that we were pursuing that, didn't you?
I know that was something Casper wanted. I know he also wants 2-3 week visits in the summer. Should I just not make any plans at all because he wants something that hasn't been ordered?
Okay, so
he wants to go on spring break, so I let her. She's essentially a part of this family that she's going to spend time with over spring break.
But she's not part of her father's family, correct?
What's that?
But she's not part of her father's family, correct?
I didn't say that.
Well, you said one of the reasons you don't want her going to visit her father in Wyoming is because she has no support system, correct? Was that your testimony?
She does not have a support system out there.
She has her father, doesn't
funny.
she? Doesn't she have her father there?
But if something goes wrong with him again, I mean, I don't trust Casper farther than I can throw him from my experience with him and his past behaviors. So
Miss-
yeah, if something goes wrong and she's stuck out there, who is she gonna call? Her dad, who has the power and control issues that he hasn't worked on yet?
Miss Kartopoulos, if something were to happen to you, if you were to die, what do you
Yes,
think is going to happen to your daughter?
she would go to my friend Kim until her dad.
No,
could-
she wouldn't. No, she would go to her
Until her
Would you
father.
let her would you let
Yeah.
her finish the answer, please, Mr. Carpenter? I think she was going where you just went, but you didn't give her a chance. All right.
Yes, and I've discussed this with my friend Kim, who I've been team mothering with since the girls were in kindergarten. That if anything were to happen to me, and this was something we touched on during COVID, as I am an asthmatic, that she would go to Kim's until it was worked out that her dad could gather.
So, isn't it in the child's best interest for you to encourage a close relationship between her and her father, even if that means that he's not going to see things the way you see them?
Can you ask me that again?
Isn't it in your daughter's best interest that she have a close relationship with her father, even if he does not view your past history the same way you do?
If he denies his abuse, you mean? I think it is in Annika's best interest to have a relationship with her father. But I know a lot of things that Annika doesn't know about her dad, and I keep her safe, and I have for years, and the court has facilitated that.
If your daughter wants a relationship with her father, are you at all concerned that she would not be comfortable saying that to you because of your hostility toward her father?
I think she would tell me, and we've discussed that before, like, it definitely won't hurt my feelings for her to grow in her relationship with him.
So would you allow for the possibility that she is perhaps telling the reunification therapist, Tracy Thompson, that she is excited about having a relationship with her father, but at the same time telling you that she's not particularly excited about seeing him or spending time with him? Do you believe both of those statements could be true?
That she could have told Tracy that?
Yes.
I think maybe if Tracy asked her, it asked her the question, are you excited? And especially if it was in front of her dad, that she would want to people please and say that.
Okay, but
Annika has a problem speaking the truth to me.
she's not people pleasing when she tells you she doesn't want to see her father.
She doesn't say she doesn't want to see her father. She says she doesn't want to go to Wyoming. That's different.
Okay. And you, of course, don't want her to go to Wyoming, correct?
No, I don't.
Okay. So
But
if
I'm
she's
not encouraging her.
So if she was seeking to please you, she certainly wouldn't want to say that she wants to go to Wyoming, correct?
I have never told her that I don't want her to go to Wyoming. That's not something we discuss.
Is Annie a smart girl?
She's a very smart girl.
You think she can pick up on how you feel about her father, even if you don't say it?
Not necessarily, no.
So you believe that AK isn't aware of how you feel about her father?
I don't think she understands how I feel about her father.
Okay. So if the court disagrees with you and does order unsupervised parenting time, uh, and I understand you've articulated your position that you don't think that should happen at all, but if it does happen, how how would you handle addressing that with Annie? Or would you, how do you think that that should look if the court concludes that there should be unsupervised parenting time?
What type of unsupervised parenting time are you referring to?
Well, if
Here, the better off I am, or the more comfortable I am with the decision, knowing full well that I can still get it wrong. Don't you love my job? In any event. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are here in the matter of Kartopolis versus Kartopolis. I believe that Mr. Quinn has finally rested, and Mr. Carpenter had 2 rebuttal witnesses, but as noted on the record just now, we're down to 1. So I don't know which one you're calling, but Mr. Carpenter, who would you like to call?
I would like to call Reagan Kartopolis to the stand.
Okay. Is she in the waiting room, Miss LeVay?
So.
I don't have any knowledge. None of us can see the waiting room, so I'm asking the boss.
Yeah, sorry, I keep muting myself. Yes, she is in the waiting
You
room.
always seem to have fun muting me, so muting yourself is a interesting twist.
And how do you know Kaspar's Kartopolis? And there I go again.
Yes, so Kaspar's Kartopolis is my husband.
And how long?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
How long have you known him?
Yes, so we met in 2017, started a relationship in 2018. So I've known Kaspar's for 6 years, married for 4, going on 5 years.
Okay. And some of these questions might seem a little silly, but there's a reason why I ask. Do the 2 of you live together?
Yes, of course.
And do you have any children in common?
We do. Yes, we have 2 2-year-old. Oh, sorry, my headphone's connected to my phone and somehow then music starts. So I don't want to do that. Can I get your question again? Sorry.
Do you have any children in common?
Yes, I do. So we share 2 2-year-old boy-girl twins.
Okay. And are there any other individuals living in the home with you and your husband?
Yes. So I have a daughter from a previous marriage, Evie. She's 8 years old, and we share her half the time with her father. So 2 weeks with us and 2 weeks with them.
Okay. And what is your profession?
I am a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. So that means that I have a doctorate degree in psychiatric nursing practice. So I am certified and licensed in the state of Wyoming to care for patients with mental health or mental illness in the state of Wyoming.
Okay. And your answer actually sort of preempted my next question, which was going to deal with your educational background. But
yeah.
And obviously, I'm sure that you're familiar with what the issues are in this case, and so I kind of want to dive right into that area.
Okay.
During her testimony, AK's mother expressed concern that there was no one in the state of Wyoming to advocate for or protect AK if she were to travel to Wyoming for parenting. If hypothetically, if AK is in Wyoming for parenting time, what types of protections would you and Kaspar's have in place for her? If there were any sort of, as unlikely as it may seem to you, if there were any sort of problems in her interacting with her father.
So you're saying that Janelle is concerned for Annika's safety? That's the question?
Well, she specifically testified that she's concerned that there's no one in Wyoming to protect AK.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so, I mean, if Annika were to come to Wyoming, she would have the support of her father. I mean, he is here, but also there's myself and her family here. If it helps, in my profession, I am a mandated reporter, so there's that. I also have a personal history of like abuse in my family. My father was abusive, so I'm just saying that I would have no problem intervening at all. I'm here also. Casper's is here, so
Okay. Say you have joint physical custody of your daughter from a previous marriage. Is that correct?
I do, yes,
Okay. Do you have a good relationship with her father, your ex-husband?
I do.
Does Kaspars have a good relationship with?
He does.
Okay. And what is his professional background?
He was a police officer for many years, and he is now a police detective.
Okay. So he went from a beat cop to a detective.
Correct.
Okay. And is he a mandated reporter?
Yes.
Okay. Um, is he comfortable with your daughter living in the same household with Kaspars?
Yes, he doesn't have any concerns with Casper's. He's aware of his protection order, and he trusts Casper's with the safety of his daughter, as do I.
Have you seen anything over the course of your relationship with Kaspars that would lead you to believe, either based upon your normal life experience or your professional training and education, have you seen anything from Kaspars that would lead you to believe that he is dangerous, abusive?
No, I have not.
Um, I want to kind of slow down a little bit. Obviously, most of us know what abuse means. Are there signs that you're trained to look for that are perhaps precursors of abuse, or red flags or indicators that abuse might occur in the future?
Yeah,
Objection.
sure.
Like the foundation, I don't know if she has testified as to what training, if any, she's had by way of abuse. She said she's dealt with it personally, and she's a nurse with a psych unit, but I don't think she's testified as to any formal training as to abuse or anything, which is what I thought the question was.
Mr. Carpenter, if you could lay a foundation, but as well, I'll note the fact that this is not a expert witness. This is a lay witness, so we'll give some credibility to background and understanding, but that's how this is coming in, as an understanding, not as a professional.
Okay,
Mr. Carpenter,
sorry,
if you lay that background.
It's my intention to do that, Your Honor. I guess I'm doing it in a different order than perhaps was expected, but I can sort of reorder the question. Have you had any training or experience, Mrs. Ontropolis, that would aid you in identifying any potential precursors to abusive behavior, if there are such things?
Sure. In my profession, it's important for me to know those signs so that I could report those things. So I have seen that myself. If you're asking about maybe what the signs are, if that's what you're asking, usually I've noticed with patients, if they are a victim of abuse, they are helpless, hopeless. A lot of times you could say that there's personality changes in the fact that maybe they were outgoing and now they're not anymore. They're more timid or reserved or don't want to talk about certain things. Children tend to be very well behaved. Does that help at all?
It does, but I was actually more focused on perhaps behaviors that would be manifested by an individual who has the propensity for abuse or is suspected of having the propensity for abuse.
So you're saying like a perpetrator?
Yes.
Okay.
Even if that perpetrator hasn't committed abuse yet, are there precursors to the abuse that you're trained to identify?
Yeah, sure. So abuse tends to start off like slow, I guess I would say, where it starts off with little things, jabs, attacking the victims, like self-esteem, being a bully, I guess, harassing in small ways, and then escalating into maybe more intense things like physical abuse, we'll say. But so maybe within the first 6 months, smaller things, not as noticeable, and then later on, bigger things.
Okay. Have you identified any behaviors on the part of Kaspars that you would describe as precursors to abusive behavior?
No.
I'll just kind of lay my cards on the table. Do you have any concerns at all that Kaspars is a potential abuser?
No, I did not.
Okay. And I don't mean to open any old wounds, but you've indicated that you've experienced abuse in your personal life. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you believe that that experience leaves you more or less sensitive, perhaps, than the average person to signs of abuse?
Well, for me personally, it's less. My father was abusive, emotionally, mentally, physically. I once was beaten over the back with a belt because I didn't get toilet paper quick enough. And so I have severed that relationship with my real father, even though I was forced to go see him till I was 17. So I will not tolerate abuse.
Okay. And I'm sorry to be asking these questions, but I think that this information could potentially be helpful.
Mhm.
You indicated that you've severed that relationship. So you
Correct.
deemed that relationship as unsalvageable.
Yes, it is unsalvageable. He will never change, and I know that. I have contact with my siblings, but I haven't been in contact with him since I was 19.
Okay. And so, and again, I'm going to ask you some hypotheticals that might seem a little bizarre. If you had any indication that Kaspar's was potentially abusive, would you attempt to protect that or conceal that behavior? How would you react to that behavior?
There's just a no tolerance policy with me. I mean, even in our relationship, I had told Caspers about my background from the beginning and that it's hey, if you're this way or this way, I'm out. It's not happening. So I've never witnessed anything like that with Caspers. And so it would be over. I would have to seriously reconsider my relationship with Caspers, basically, if any kind of abusive behavior were to occur.
Thank you. Now, with respect to your family, kind of like to talk a little bit about that. You said you have 2-year-old twins. Is that correct?
We do, yes.
And how involved is Kaspar's in assisting with child rearing and those types of responsibilities?
No, Caspers has been a wonderful father, early on in our relationship, he had to take on an active father role because I had a child from a previous marriage. So, we were a fully functioning family before the twins came along, but I was a little bit concerned about how the balance would go because we went from having my 8-year-old daughter part-time to now having 3 children. So I was worried. Casper's was always very positive about it. But we talked during the pregnancy that, hey, once these babies are born, you're going to have one and I'm going to have one. And so that's exactly how it went. And it's been a fun experience, but he's made it very enjoyable in having twins. It's been fun.
Now, when you say that he's had an active father role from the beginning of your relationship, how old? I mean, we can all do the math, but sometimes I
Sure.
have questions. How old was your daughter when Kasper was
So, yep.
on that
So
role?
So Evie was 3 when they met. And, I mean, just in being a single mom at that time, I needed his help because I was a working mom. So Casper's, when I say took on an active role, helped take her to school, help put her to bed, help cook dinner. And then what I love about Casper's is he's always been a very fun father. So he taught my daughter how to ride a bike. And right now, the big thing in our family is hockey. So he taught my daughter how to skate, how to do hockey, and that's been her sport. So we've been taking her to her hockey games on the weekends. So he's even taken her to her hockey games. And even with my son already, he's 2 years old, but he's already got a hockey stick and his gloves and everything. It's quite funny. But yeah, Casper's has always been just that fun attitude, like a dad should be, I guess. So it's been fun.
And does Evie have a warm relationship with him?
She does, she calls Casper either Cassie or Dad, and they get along very well, especially on the activity side. Because my oldest, so Evie, she's just a very energetic person. She's one of those people who never runs out of energy, and so I'm happy to have Casper's around because he's usually at his rollerblades while she's on her bike or whatever, and it helps me a lot. Otherwise, I'm already drained of energy, but it's helpful having Casper's around, so.
So, obviously with 2-year-old twins, that sounds like a lot of work. Does Kaspar's display patience, and is he calm with the children?
Yes, of course. I'd say sometimes he's more calm than myself. But no, he does an excellent job with the twins. And I think that in our relationship, we really survive off of teamwork. So there's not one person that is set to do one job. We're both helping each other in all of the jobs.
Okay. And so I think it goes without saying then he not only takes on his share of the parental responsibilities, but he's also supportive of you when you're tired and have a lot going on.
Oh, yes, of course. He's, when I was pregnant, actually, it's kind of funny because, we were surprised with twins, but the doctor told me that I had to eat 3,200 calories to sustain twins. And it couldn't be, cheeseburgers all the time or bad food. It had to be healthy calories. And so Casper's took on the role as being my personal chef through the entire pregnancy. I woke up every morning to a steak and egg sandwich, which I never would have made for myself. So does such a good job of not only taking care of me, but also taking care of our kids. So
that is wonderful. And if you, in your training, and I'm not asking you to comment or diagnose or provide any sort of professional assessment of Jonelle, that wouldn't be fair. But are there situations where a person who has been in a relationship that has failed, such as an ex-wife, a former spouse, where they struggle to overcome, or I should say, forgive their former spouse? Is that something that you've been trained to recognize?
forgiveness of an ex-spouse.
That's perhaps a clumsy question. I'm trying to think of a way to ask this that that perhaps would be. I'm not calling upon you to make an assessment of.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's a lot of negativity and tension between Kaspar's and his ex. When a relationship ends, can there sometimes be animosity that exists that can manifest itself with an inability to forgive or an inability to maintain some sort of healthy relationship?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Okay. I guess it goes without saying you don't struggle with getting along with your ex-husband.
No, I don't. And there are some big things that happened in our relationship. We were together for 7 years. And it wasn't easy by any means, but because of my daughter, I made it important. And actually both of us did, because we both came from divorced families. And I've been in the middle as a kid. He also has, and we just didn't want that for our daughter. So we did have to put our things aside and navigate through this co-parenting, which is not easy by any means, but now we can say that we've managed. And I would say I have a good relationship with him and even his now wife.
Okay. And so you don't believe, excuse me, you described severing the relationship with your father. You didn't sever that relationship lightly, I take it, as evidenced by the fact that you continue to get along with your ex-husband. Is that a fair assessment of what you're saying?
Yeah, that is a fair assessment.
Okay. And do you think it's important that Kaspar's have a good relationship with his daughter, Annie?
I think that's very important.
You've stood by Kaspar's as he's pursued this relationship for the past several years. Is that correct?
Yes, I have.
How has he navigated the ups and downs? How has he dealt with the setbacks, or having the process drawn out longer than he perhaps thought it was going to take?
I really admire Kaspar's and his long suffering and going through this, because I wish my dad would have done some of the things that Kaspar's have done. I am in awe that Casper's would go through all of this just to have a good relationship with his daughter. And I think to me, that speaks of who he is and the relationship that he wants to have with her, because it hasn't been easy. Financially, it hasn't been easy. It's hard with the time, even, the setbacks, like you said.
And throughout this process, there have been times where Gaspars was sure, okay, once I do this, I'll be able to have a normal relationship with AK, and then only to be told, no, we're gonna move the goalpost again. I guess those are my metaphors, but
Yes,
if you
I
understand,
think that has been the most frustrating process in this, is that we've kept saying, okay, once we do this, then we will get there. Once you do this, you will get there. And that's been hard. I mean, even for instance, the therapy, Casper's was in therapy, and then it was argued for, I think, a year if it was meaningful or not. And that was so frustrating. These are just small examples, but psychological evaluations, therapy that he's gone through, financial struggles. It's been hard, but he keeps going. He believes that it's that important to see Annika and have a relationship with her.
and have you been with Caspars throughout this process where he's been engaged with his own therapist in Wyoming?
Yes, so I've just been his support person through all of this. Yes.
Based on your observations, is he invested in that therapy?
Absolutely.
I don't know, based on your observations, has Caspars made real efforts to improve, to make positive changes?
Yes.
Are you comfortable giving any examples? Is there anything that springs to mind?
I think that it's interesting, because you go through a relationship with somebody that it hasn't worked out. But I think it's interesting that then, God brought us together, I feel like. And it's interesting that in my situation here, I was going through navigating co-parenting with my ex-husband, let's say, and how to deal with that, and how it was hard on my daughter, and Casper getting to witness that. So for an example, I remember my ex-husband would do these very long, drawn out drop-offs, and would say, oh, I'm just going to miss you so much, and it's going to be so hard being away from you. And then when he would leave, my daughter would sob and be upset that her dad was upset. And I remember Casper telling me, oh my gosh, I did that with Annika. I did that, and I remember it being hard on her, but I didn't realize that at the time. I wish I would have done differently then. And so it's funny that just things like that and what I've gone through with my ex-husband, Casper has witnessed and said, man, I would really do things different, or I would really change that, or I can now see how I could have done better in that sense. So I hope that was a decent example. That's just one that came to mind.
I couldn't have thought of a better one myself, frankly. Is there anything that you would like the court to know that I haven't asked you about?
Objection, open-ended. He has to ask her a specific question. You can't just let her ramble in the narrative.
I'm going to overrule the objection at this point in time. I'll give her an opportunity to say something that may have been missed, because the court is trying to make a decent decision here. So at this point in time, I realize your technical objection, Mr. Quinn, but I'll give her some leeway, and if there's something else she wants to say. You're going to get a chance to cross-examine her.
Okay.
Ms. Kartopoulos, is there anything else you want the court to know?
No, I just, in all of this, it's hard, because I just want people to know that Casper's is a good father, that maybe the things that I see in him, and just that I believe that, well, I'm fully confident that if Annika were to visit here in Wyoming, that she would be safe, and that she would have a wonderful relationship with her father, and that she has a family here that is excited to meet her, and is ready to welcome her into her home and her family here. So
Thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
And now you see why I let it go, Mr. Quinn. It was just a simple statement. So, all right, Mr. Quinn, you may cross-examine this witness.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Can I call you Regan? Is it Regan or Reagan?
Reagan, like the president?
Reagan, okay.
Mhm.
I can see you look like you're in an office. Where are you?
Yeah, so this is my husband's business office, and so that's where I'm at.
Is he in the business office as well during this hearing?
No, he is not.
Did you talk to anybody about your testimony today?
No,
You didn't talk to Mr. Carpenter, you didn't talk to your husband about what to say or what to go over?
nope. Casper is in Casper currently, and so I was busy getting my kids ready and getting ready for today, so no.
Okay, so you didn't talk to him today, but did you talk to him the day before or the day before that or at any point before that?
I guess we spoke that I would be on here today, but I was nervous about it, to be honest, but other than that, no.
But it's your testimony that you have not spoken with Casper's attorney, Mr. Carpenter, about your testimony today.
No, I have not.
Have you, during any portion of this hearing or any previous hearings, watched any testimony?
No,
Not on YouTube or otherwise?
no, I wasn't aware that you could watch it on YouTube.
Have you reviewed any transcripts of any of these prior hearings, including this current hearing, the prior hearing in front of now Judge Gottlieb, or the prior hearing in front of referee Poulos Dominguez on the PPO?
No,
Now, you said on your direct exam, is it a nurse? Is that right?
I am a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. I know it's a mouthful. PMHNP,
I'll just
nurse
call it-
practitioner.
Okay.
Sure, okay.
Do you currently work in that role right now?
Yes, I do.
Have you worked in that role continuously over the last 4 to 5 years?
No, so I am new in practice. I just started in January.
And before, so January of 2024, so you're not.
That
even
is correct. Correct, yep.
And before January, you didn't work outside the home, did you?
I was doing school up until that point, so.
So you didn't work outside the home apart from school and raising the twins? Is that accurate?
Sure, I mean, I did school until August and then I was studying very hard for my board's examination until December, so. And then started working in January.
Trying to get an answer, like, we heard
Okay.
from Ontropolis on his direct examination that you haven't worked in the last 4 to 5 years. I just want to see.
That's correct.
Okay,
That is correct, yeah.
okay. So you know of AK, right? I'm using.
I
her name.
know,
Love
yes,
her.
I do. Yes, mhm.
You've never met her though, is that correct?
That is correct.
You've never spoken with her, correct?
That is correct.
And you know of Janelle, correct?
Yep,
You've never met her either, correct?
correct.
You've never spoken with her either, correct?
That's correct, yep.
So everything that you know about Kaspar's and his relationship with Janelle is through Kaspar's himself, is that correct?
Yes,
And everything that you know about Kaspar's relationship with AK is also through what you have learned from your husband, Kaspar's, correct?
yes,
Now, throughout the hearing, there's been testimony about, and you said Kaspar's has gone through a number of different hoops or hurdles to jump over to get to this point. Now, one of those, I guess, hurdles, we'll call it, is reunification counseling. Have you talked to Kaspar's about reunification counseling?
sure.
Okay. Did you attend any of those reunification sessions?
No,
And there were also, as part of those sessions, video calls. Did you attend or participate in any of those video calls?
no, I have not.
And also part of this, there was supervised visits with, we've heard the name Jody Check a number of times, and those supervised visits were in Grand Rapids. Did you participate or attend any of those supervised visits?
No,
Now, you also testified that Casper's has attended individual counseling in the state of Wyoming, where you both live.
Mhm.
Uh,
yes, I'm aware.
Did you attend any of those counseling sessions with his counselor in Wyoming?
No,
No. Have you spoken with his counselor in Wyoming?
no,
Has he told you, well, I assume based on your direct examination that you've talked about his counseling in Wyoming and that he's participated in that?
yes.
How frequently has he participated in counseling over the last year?
As far as I'm aware, it's once a month. I think there's been a couple missed due to vacations or something like that. I couldn't tell you exactly the number of times that he's seen her, but it's been since it was ordered. Most recently, it's been once a month, like I said.
Has he told you that it's been ordered over his objection, or this is something that he has agreed to voluntarily done?
Both.
Okay. Now, has he told you why he is attending individual counseling? Is court ordered?
It was basically a step to get to see Annika for reunification and start rekindling a relationship is what I understand, but
Okay, so he's told you he's doing it just because he's gotta go through the motions to have this relationship with Annika. Or AK, correct?
go through the motions. What do you mean?
Do what I need to do, whatever that is, to get to his ultimate goal,
Well,
i.e.
there's also a qualitative factor in all of that. So it was also, from my understanding, to benefit Annika and his relationship, how he can be a better dad, how he can understand Annika. So it's not just a, hey, this is what he needs to do. It's how can he be better for himself and for Annika also. So like I said, the qualitative portion of it.
Okay, would you agree that also a portion of that would be accepting responsibility for past behaviors and learning lessons to move forward?
Sure.
Have you talked with Kaspars about what lessons he has learned in his counseling process?
Sure. We've talked about that.
Okay. What lessons has he told you specifically that he has learned?
I think that it's been mostly forward focused on Annika. We're not discussing, maybe it feels like you're wanting me to say, oh, this happened with me and Janelle and I should have, could have this.
No,
It's
I'm asking you what lessons he has told you he has learned through the counseling process.
okay. He's been able to relate to his daughter. So when he goes and sees her, how to say certain things, how to connect with her, how to answer some of the questions that Annika might have for him in a therapeutic way, right? Hope that answers your question. But I guess that's for him and his counselor to kind of talk about and decide on, and what he brings up. So I don't know.
I'm asking you what you both have discussed and what he's disclosed to you.
Okay.
I think those are fair game. Now, is he, in your conversations with him about this process, accepted responsibility for his role and I guess why we are here?
I would say so, yes.
And when he has talked to you or discussed that with you and accepted responsibility for his role, is he blame that on a quote nasty divorce, end quote? Does he blame it on Janelle being crazy, or what is he blaming that on? Is he blaming it on other people, or is he accepting responsibility himself?
He's accepted responsibility, at least to me. He's not telling me, oh, that was a nasty divorce or that was Janelle, whatever. He's told me intimate things about things that he wished that he would have done differently or better in their relationship and how that impacted Annika.
What did he tell you?
For example, I mean, I think I wasn't there, but when Casper's talks about their relationship, it was toxic on both ends, and how he would react to Janelle and perhaps how she would react to him, that there was a lack of trust between the two of them, and how that goes from there with parenting, with owning a business together. He said that he did a lot of coping by working, and so he wishes that he would have been present more so in Annika's life or even in his relationship with Janelle. Maybe fighting or how they navigated conflict. He wished it would have gone differently, or he wished he would have said things differently, better. Is that a good enough example?
We'll get to some more details. Did he ever tell you about being abusive to Janelle? That he said, I wish I wouldn't have done that?
What is there a specific something that you have in mind?
No, you're trained in, you testified that you come from a relationship with your father that was marked by abuse. So you know and are familiar with signs of that. Has he given you an indication in your intimate discussions with him that he has accepted or shown remorse for abusive behaviors done to Janelle during their marriage? Or is this just, I wish they would have communicated better?
I wasn't there in their relationship, so I don't know what happened. All I can say is what my personal relationship has been with Casper's, and I have not seen anything what Janelle is claiming as being abusive. So I guess I can't speak to that. Casper's has never said I was abusive, so I'm sorry. He's never said those words to me.
Okay. So he's never, okay, he hasn't said or admitted to anything of accepting responsibility.
He has admitted to verbal abuse, but, or maybe emotional abuse, but physical, sexual abuse, no.
Now, you're aware that Janelle has a PPO against Casper's. Is that accurate?
I'm aware.
And he's had a PPO against Janelle throughout the duration of the time you have known him, since back to 2017 when you met. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And he also has had a PPO against him by the mother of his son in the country of Latvia. Is that also correct, to your knowledge?
It's different in Latvia, so I'm not aware that it was technically a protection order, but okay, I am aware of the situation, and yes.
Now, you said you met Casper's back in 2017, started dating in 2018. Is that right on the timeline?
Yes.
Now, when did he tell you that I have a daughter in Michigan, but I can't see her?
It was fairly early on. Actually, that's why I say that God brought us together, because we were going through very similar things in the sense that we had been divorced, and just, he told me early on, basically, about Janelle and his daughter, Annika.
What did he tell you why he couldn't see her?
I don't remember what he had said about that. He said that they had been married for 11 years, and went into that they had a business together and what the relationship was like, that they were divorced and that he had a protection order against, or Janelle had a protection order against him. And that was a big reason why he couldn't see Annika.
Does Casper's talk about Janelle?
Sure. He's talked about Janelle.
When he talks about her, does he get angry?
Does he get angry?
Yeah. Is it like, oh, Janelle, or is it like that SOB?
No, it's nothing like that.
You know, he speaks pleasantly of her at all times.
No, actually, you know, when he comes back from his supervised visits, he's been saying things like, you know, wow, Annika is such a great girl, and I think Janelle did such a great job raising her.
Do you have any guns at your home?
No.
Have you had guns in your home
Have I had guns in my home?
within the last, let's say, couple of years?
No.
Now, you went through your own divorce, right?
Mhm.
And now you're separated from husband and have your daughter. And you meet Casper's, he tells you his story that I have a PPO against me and I can't see my daughter. Doesn't that give you any red flags from your own divorce?
Yeah, sure. At first it made me a little bit nervous. But I got to know him more and I don't know, it was a feeling, I guess. It wasn't a serious relationship. I didn't introduce him to my daughter for several months until I was sure that it was okay, right? So.
Are you aware that Casper's and Janelle communicate via Our Family Wizard?
Yes, I am.
Have you read any of their messages or exchanges on Our Family Wizard?
Casper's has shared some things with me, and asked, like I said, I'm just a support person. So, and asking me things like, hey, what do you think I should say? Do you think that this sounds okay? Should I respond like this? And then I give my support by saying yes or no, or things like that. So when he,
Do you
Excuse
write
me?
messages for him?
no,
Are you aware that Casper's communicates with AK via Our Family Wizard?
yes,
How frequently would you say he communicates with her on Our Family Wizard, to your knowledge?
I know that Casper's mentioned when it first started, it was kind of slow, kind of was like once or twice a month or a couple times a month, but now he said that it's been more frequent. So every other day or every couple of days, at least once a week, I would say.
One of the requests, and I think you touched on this in your direct, is that AK come from Michigan and travel out to Wyoming to stay
Mhm.
there a handful of weeks.
Okay.
Coming from your own personal experience, do you think if that were forced upon her, that would, I guess, receive a good reaction?
Your Honor, I'm
If
going
it
to
were-
object to this form of the question. The inflammatory language like forced upon her is not a fair.
DC and Mr. Quinn, you had a few moments to collect your thoughts. Are there any further questions of this witness? And Ms. Kartopoulos, I'd like to remind you that you are still under oath.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Quinn.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I have a couple of questions left.
Mhm.
So Reagan, do you remember me asking you some questions about lessons Kaspars has learned?
Yes.
And I think your answers were, well, I think he learned lessons through counseling, reunification, and talking to you and your relationship and exposure to what's going on. You remember that?
Sure, yeah.
Now, the court has found on previous occasions that Casper has engaged in a cycle of violence and control towards Janelle, aka that the party's marriage was plagued with emotional and verbal abuse by Casper's, that Casper's has demonstrated a pattern of engaging in alarming and concerning behavior, and that his explanations for his actions are nonsensical, unbelievable, and frankly absurd. And from what I was hearing from you, that he has pretty much categorically denied that type of behavior.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to this question.
I was going to say she did indicate that he did acknowledge emotional and psychological abuse.
Okay.
He just did not admit to any physical abuse.
Okay. So from those other things that he's denied everything else, is he denied engaging in a pattern of a cycle of violence and control toward Janelle and AK to you?
Violence and control.
Correct.
Has he denied that?
Yes.
Yes.
Has he denied to you that the party's marriage was plagued with emotional and verbal engaging in alarming and concerning behavior?
Your Honor, I got to object to this. That is so vague. How could she possibly respond to that?
I'm going to allow her version of an answer to that. She may answer it to the extent that she would know or that she has knowledge. So I realize it's a vague question, but it is an overbroad, but it is a subject matter that is at the heart of a lot of this. So if she has any knowledge, she may definitely answer. So I'm going to overrule the objection and allow her to answer. If the question needs to be re-asked, Ms. Kartopoulos, you can request that.
Okay, please, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes. Has Casper's denied to you engaging in a pattern of alarming and concerning behaviors to Janelle and or AK?
He has never used that terminology with me. However, I also have been through a divorce myself, and I've been in my own toxic relationship with my ex-husband, and I have said things and done things that I am not that person today. So yes, Casper's has admitted to things that he would say he's ashamed of doing or saying, but I guess that's all I have to say on that.
What has he admitted to you that he is?
I guess we don't talk about this currently, about all of the things that he said or done. So I guess I can't remember of something specific that he said or has done, but it's.
Give me one example, because all I've gotten is a lot of general things. I haven't gotten really any specifics from you. Give me one specific example of what he has admitted to you that he's ashamed of.
I guess I already gave the example with his daughter, with drop-offs and pickups. I know that there has been arguments that he's talked about. I wasn't there, so I don't know what the specific argument would be, but just when arguments would get heated. But that's it. I don't know, I guess. I don't remember.
So taking a step back, you said he's denied engaging in a cycle of violence and control toward Janelle and or AK. So if he has denied that, is it safe to say, in your opinion, that he hasn't learned any lessons with respect to violence and control? Or how to better that, or scratch that? That he hasn't learned any lessons with respect to not engaging in violence and control?
I've never witnessed anything like that with him. So I guess he must have learned something, right? If you guys are claiming that he has, and I have never seen anything like that. So I guess that's all I have to say about that. I don't know.
Well, if he's denying it, how?
I don't think she ever said he denied it. I think she said he's never talked to her or admitted to her about something like that. That's different than a denial.
I believe she did say that he denied that when I asked her directly.
Okay, I'll rewatch the testimony to make sure, but I thought I remembered it being more of a, he's not admitted to anything like that. So,
Yes.
okay,
We'll tell on that because I have different.
okay,
Okay.
please proceed.
Now, has he talked to you, meaning Kaspars, about the incident that has kind of been the springboard to where we are right now? Specifically, the threat he made about shooting Janelle but keeping her alive long enough to watch AK pack her bag to take her to Latvia forever. Has he talked to you about that?
Yes, he's talked to me about that.
Has he denied making that threat?
Yes, he's denied that.
Now, I think your exam said, in your opinion, that Janelle can't put the divorce behind her. And that's, do you recall that?
I never said that.
Well, did you say something along the lines that Janelle can't get over the divorce, in your opinion?
I said in a general statement that that could be the case in any relationship. I don't know that that's the case with Janelle.
So you don't think that's the case here, or you do?
Can you ask the question again, what you're referring to?
I believe you said in the past that there may be, and you just said this, situations where Janelle or whoever else can't get past the divorce. Do you recall that?
Yes, okay, sure.
Do you believe that is the case here?
Speaking from my own experience in my divorce, I know how hard it is to get over a relationship or a marriage and go through a divorce with a child. And so I myself struggled with that. So I could see that being the case with Janelle.
Now, we heard some testimony about your relationship with your father and that you were subjected to abuse. I think you mentioned him taking a belt to you or something like that. Do you recall that?
I do.
Was there other types of abuse, such as verbal and emotional?
Yes, I specifically remember one of the most scary moments with my father. It was middle of the night. He had put my younger brother to sleep on the couch, and my stepmom had come down the stairs to see if he had fallen asleep, and he just so happened to wake up, and I woke up to him screaming, so upset that my brother had woken up that he choked. And then he said that he was going to do that to me next.
How old were you at that?
I think I was 12.
And is it safe to say that that incident and the other incidents that you have described have had a lasting impression upon you?
They have had a lasting impression upon me, yes.
And I think you testified that they had such an impression that when you were 17, you severed your relationship with your father. Is that right?
Correct. When I was 19, yeah, I've completely severed it. I didn't have to go see him anymore after I was 17. And I tried to keep a relationship semi going, but at some point you have to save yourself in a sense.
And
So,
you saving yourself was kind of severing that relationship when you were 19, right?
yes, yep,
And you have not had any relationship with your father since that time. Is that accurate?
correct.
So it's safe to say that those incidents that have happened in the past have and can still very much resonate with you. I guess they've left a lasting, long impression that still to this day have impacted you.
No, definitely.
I have no further questions right now for the witness.
Thank you. Any further examination, Mr. Carpenter?
Sorry, Your Honor. No.
Okay.
I do not have any
In
further
that case,
questions.
was there an agreement between in that case, Ms. Kartopoulos, you are excused. You can stick around for a
Okay.
couple minutes or not, or leave.
Okay.
Your choice at this point. Gentlemen, was there an agreement to send in closing statements in writing or?
My understanding from the last hearing, that what the court said, we were gonna do written closings and then there were replies.
Okay.
I thought, and Rob, interrupt me if I am saying something wrong or different than your recollection, that the court had our written closings due Monday, I want to say the 15th or the 8th. And then
I can't remember if there was a date, but
I was actually going to ask this question because I don't recall the due dates, and I didn't know if
I
the
don't.
order.
Well, this may make a dent in that, and that's I can give the oral opinion on April 30th at 10 a.m.
well, when do you want then, Your Honor? Are we still?
The week before would be fine.
That's the 15th.
Yeah. So that week, so you guys can turn them in that week, and they'll be waiting for me on my desk when I get back, or you can turn them in the following Monday, giving a couple days for any rebuttal.
How about we do them on, because I'm looking at the calendar, the 30th is a Tuesday.
Okay.
Right? So
All right.
we could do either the 19th or the 22nd. That's a Friday, or the 26th Monday.
No problem. I'll look
Which,
forward.
Rob, do you have a preference?
I was gonna say
would-
whatever's easiest for you guys. You guys know your schedules better than I do.
I would prefer the
Well,
22nd, so I had the weekend if something.
All right, that's fine too. You know, it's the week before one way or the other, and I'm going to start. I've already started watching Judge Gottlieb's or Referee Gottlieb at the time hearing, which is great because it's the one that I've gotten able to be able to work. Turns out that they've changed our systems at the courthouse, and I'm having trouble watching any hearings that were in person at home.
When would replies be due? If they're due on Monday? The closing.
You can get them to me by the Friday. I'll have the weekend to read them then. That'll give you time to write any rebuttal, or it'll give me time to watch them. I'll be spending more of my time rewatching these hearings. So my thing about being able to watch them at home is the fact that I have very little time at work, and I've only got 5 or 10 minutes or 15 minutes here and there to rewatch a hearing at work. If I can watch them at home, I watch them in the evenings and on the weekends, so I can get them done quicker.
So
that's what I will be doing in this case.
So any rebuttals or replies would be due the 26th?
Is that Friday?
That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, okay, sure.
And do we have a time for the April 30th oral opinion?
10 a.m. If everybody's available. If everybody's not, we could find another time.
I have a mediation that morning from 9 to 3.
Okay. Miss LeVay?
Looking right now, but just side question. Do you want me to go off the record and off?
Yeah, oh yeah, go ahead and go off the record.